Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the GrowthPro Edge. I'm Denise Killian with the GrowthPro Group and Traintertainment, and I'm thrilled that you're joining us this week. Before we get started, I do want to have the opportunity to thank our 2026 sponsors. Without them, we couldn't do what we do, which is bring you a new episode of the GrowthPro Edge each and every week. Well, here at the Growth Pro Group, we are all about growth, and that only happens when we take a break from the doing and spend just a little bit of time thinking. And that's where the Growth Pro Edge comes in. Each week, we'll be talking about issues that impact our growth for our teams, for our businesses, and for ourselves. This week, we're going to be speaking with Todd Smith about a topic that I think is so incredibly important. It's about AI and how you're using AI in your company. If you're thinking about getting started this year, you want to watch this episode first because there's some parameters and some strategies that you can deploy right now from the beginning to create a successful transition to using AI within your business. So let's go ahead and get started and hear from Todd Smith. Todd Smith, welcome to the Growth Pro Edge. We're so excited to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Well, thrilled to talk about this because I think it's something that is so important when we talk about AI and how we're using AI. So you're the first person I kind of thought about to have this conversation with. So I appreciate you being here. But before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your connection to AI has been?
Sure. Well, my background is in filmmaking, and I've been doing that in different capacities for the past 20 some odd years. And about 2.5 3 years ago, I moved over into the AI space. And since then, I've kind of seen how the sausage was made on a couple of different fronts with it, working with several different companies. So,
So when we talk about that sausage getting made, I think, you had the opportunity to jump in at a very, very early stage, in a formative stage with AI and working in that background of helping to cultivate AI, really. And so I think that this is the great conversation to have as we begin this new year and companies are thinking about their goals for the year and what they want to do this year. I can guarantee you a lot of conversations right now are around how are we going to use AI? What should we do with AI? What can we do? And it's such a broad question to ask
mhm.
that it can be really hard to figure out what those answers are. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today is when we look at when you're having those conversations, now is the time to create some foundations of governances, if you will, of how you're going to use AI. And you and I were talking, and you've got an amazing way to really help you start to frame out how you're going to use AI. And beautifully, it's called ethics.
Sure, yeah. Well, I think maybe the first step that an organization should look at when they're looking at integrating AI is maybe looking at it as you're bringing on a new employee, right? So you're asking this employee to do a whole lot of things for you. And so with that, organizations should probably ask themselves basically three different questions. What is the purpose of your AI? What are you going to be using this for, and to what end? And then finally, as you're going through this process, for whom is this going to fail? Right? Which is it going to be the organization? Is it going to be a client? Is it going to be a much greater capacity? So when you're incorporating the ethics into your AI deployment, you can start with the acronym of ethics and start with E, start at the top, start with your execs or your board members. As we go in, we have our technologists. There are going to be the people that are actually building this for you. After that, you have your HR. What kind of data and security are you going to incorporate into your AI? Obviously, you're going to want to bring in industry experts and see how this is going to really be built effectively and more efficiently for your organization. You want to obviously incorporate your customer, your user, client, and then finally, what is going to be the societal aspect of this? On an overall arching question right there.
So I want to start with the what is the purpose? Because I think that is a very important conversation to have, just as, and I love the analogy of if you're bringing on a new employee. Think of it as you're creating a new position in
Mhm.
your company. What are the roles? What are the specific things that this employee would be responsible for? Who do they report to, right? All of those things that you would do if you're creating a new position and building a job description, right? You should do that for AI. I think that's such an interesting way to look at it, of really nailing down what should it be. Now, should you start small or should you just start huge? What would be your suggestion there?
Well, I think an organization really has to look at their needs, and kind of, as you say, build on a foundation of this. So maybe is it if you're doing something that is agentic AI, if you want to look at something like that, that's kind of the way that I've viewed this is it's like a project manager. So you have all of the agents that are responsible for maybe looking at your calendar or scheduling or summarizing emails. And then your agentic AI is your overall project manager, which is going to start deploying all of this information and maybe developing a marketing plan. So, who is going to be responsible for overseeing the project manager? You want to also, make sure that you have humans that are overseeing the end process here to double check and make sure you are on the right process. So it's all up to the organization to decide how big or how small they want to go.
And also, another thing that I want to kind of point out too is make sure that you are using a service, no matter which of the, at this point, dozens and dozens of
Mhm.
different AIs that are out there, that you're using a service that is protected, meaning you're not using open, where you're
Yeah.
releasing all of your information out into the world, that you're using the protected measurements, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and pay for the service because if you are using an open source network, then your IP is then being used to train other models. And you are also leaving yourself open for any kind of data breaches and security hacks that could come down the line. So if you are using something that is proprietary, you are more able to um, lock down your parameters and also add more value for your client and be able to tell your client this is exactly how we are doing this. That's a big part of your ethics as well, is being transparent and being able to explain in layman's terms to your client what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Absolutely. So you've got it locked down. You've got a service. You've picked a service. You're paying for it so that your proprietary information, whether it's your financials, or any other data that you want to protect, is protected. You have created a job description, as it were, for how we're going to use this AI, the specifics of what you're going to be doing with it, and who is going to be the person or the people who are responsible for working with it,
Mhm.
which are great. You're not done there. And that's where I really want to get back into the ethics that you were talking about. And the first one, of course, you mentioned the E is for your executives, your shareholders, bringing them to the table. What does that discussion look like?
That discussion really starts at high level and is coming up with what is our end goal for this. And so once you have that end goal in mind, then you as the executives can maybe kind of work backwards and say, okay, let's figure out what our deployment is going to be, what it's going to look like, and then start putting the people in place to make it happen.
Fantastic. So you've got your execs on board. You've got your, if you have shareholders, your board
Mhm.
members, right? Those people on board, and we all agree this is the path that we're moving forward with, and some of those parameters. The T, of course, stands for tech. You got to bring your tech people in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure that you are bringing in the right people that can do the right thing for you. You're as quickly as AI is progressing, um, younger generations are really picking up on it quicker, maybe than older generations. But at the same time, there is still institutional knowledge that the older generations have that they can bring along with this. So I guess make sure that you have industry professionals that are working on this, and you don't necessarily want to just have a team of interns that is responsible for all of your data and your clients' data and building such a very important part of your business at this point.
The H, of course, stands for not just bring in your HR people, but really this is more of the broader kind of a human rights advocate here, right?
Absolutely. You want to make sure that your AI is not biased or not projecting some sort of bias. You want to make sure, I keep coming back to data and security, making sure that your employees' data, your clients' data is also secured. So making sure that there is bias avoidance in this is a real high priority.
And the bias part, we've all seen things that have happened when AI is left unchecked. And this is
Mhm.
really what this conversation is about. How can you harness AI into a tool that's going to be beneficial to your company as opposed to doing something inadvertently that you didn't intend to do? Without those parameters, that can easily happen where AI is presenting information that it's gathered that is, in fact, bias or that might be inaccurate or might do something that is illegal.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, and or also if it is telling an end user to do something that is harmful, either to themselves or to society. So you really want to make sure that you are, again, keeping a human in the loop that is being able to oversee your AI and also being able to objectively audit yourself. Is the AI doing these sort of things and then making the fixes as quickly as possible? So you have to be flexible and you have to be nimble.
And this is particularly important when a company is perhaps thinking about using AI to be an automated response to customers or
Mhm.
consumers. The
Yeah.
chatbots or the back and forth email responses, or even if you have an AI agent that is having those conversations potentially with customers, that's where this oversight becomes really, really essential.
Absolutely. And that comes down to kind of our last two of our ethics anagram here is our customer and our user. So we want to make sure that our customer is being taken care of in the most ethical way possible and is provided the correct information. And then that's, as you're talking about the chatbot, what is the overall impact on society here? Because the chatbots are interacting with so many users. If they're giving false information or harmful information, what is the end impact of that?
Mhm. Right. And the clear override here is that, hey, if you're thinking about we can use AI, we can get rid of a ton of people and just let AI do all of this unchecked, that's the wrong answer.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We want to make sure that we are on top of our AI. It can do really fabulous things for an organization, but at the end of the day, you need people to oversee your AI.
Mhm. Right, absolutely. So I'm loving it's very simple, it's clear ethics, right? That's a great way to start those conversations under that framework of making sure that it is a tool that is beneficial, not detrimental. and that AI does not mean replacing all people.
Correct. Correct. It is another employee that you're bringing into your organization. And organizations don't just leave employees unchecked at all. They have supervisors. So, as you're implementing AI into your pipeline and into your organization, just keep that in mind that it is not a cure-all. It's not going to do everything for you. It's a part of your organization.
Right. Absolutely. So in your experience of, you've been for 3 years, you've been working on that back end part.
Mhm.
And you mentioned before how quickly AI is changing and adapting. In your reflection of the past 3 years of working on that back end part, I'm loving this learning of these parameters, which I think is so fantastic and applicable to anybody who's looking to use AI in their business. But talking about how quickly it progresses, what has been your biggest sort of aha or surprising experience of how quickly it has adapted?
Well, I look at Will Smith eating spaghetti. That is one of the first generative AI examples that we had 2.5 years ago or so. And I look at how far generative AI has just progressed by leaps and bounds. And I really look at that, from my filmmaking background, I look at what is going to be the impact of AI on the movie and TV industry specifically, but I just see how far it has come in being able to create all these fantastic worlds and characters and being able to implement a whole lot of things together to make a story. That's what I have seen so much of in the past 2 years that I'm just blown away by.
Mhm. And the projection into the future is kind of unknown, I guess, right? Where is it going to land?
Yeah, it really is. I personally feel there should be guardrails put in place for the uses of AI to keep us all safe, to keep us grounded, and to be able to utilize the tools that AI has developed. The AI companies have developed over the past few years. Um, Without guardrails and going unchecked, there is potential for very negative consequences. So yes, we do have a lot of potential, but I think that we need to have the guardrails in place to help guide us down the way.
Yeah. And that it's an enhancement, not a replacement.
Exactly. It's another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah. Okay. Todd, unfortunately, I could talk to you about this all day, but unfortunately, we are running a little bit short on time. But I am so thrilled for this conversation. And I think it's a great starting point for a lot of folks as they're looking to integrate AI into their business. But before we leave, here at the Growth Pro Group, we are all about growth. So I want to ask you, what do you do to grow yourself?
I actually do a couple of things. One, I feed my creativity. I do a lot of writing. I still do screenplay writing, and I still edit videos and stuff like that. I nourish that creative aspect of me. And I've also been doing a program called Positive Intelligence. And so that is really about being in the moment, staying grounded, and being appreciative for all the little things and to have a sage mindset.
That is great. And positive intelligence, that is something that uh, the mindfulness of it, it's amazing how quickly it can help shift your mindset a little bit.
Oh,
So,
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Todd, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. And what a great thought-provoking conversation that this was. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Denise. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, I don't know about you, but I have a lot to think on from that conversation. And I really just love the foundation of creating a system from the start with your company, with your executives, with your tech leaders, with your department heads, thinking about the customer and the impact and exactly how you're going to be using AI. And using the anagram of ethics is just a perfect way to do that. So thank you so much for Todd and what his thoughts are there. And, again, thinking of starting to use AI as you're creating a new position, and the same conversations that you'd be having with your teams about what is this position, who does this person report to, what are the job descriptions, what are the requirements. I think that is a great way to think about how we're going to use AI. So whether it's you're looking to incorporate AI into your sales team, into your customer response departments, your customer and consumer outreach, your marketing, or your financial analytics, that's a great way to kind of frame how you're going to be using AI to start thinking about it in that way. So thank you so much for Todd and your insight and your expertise. Appreciate that. And again, before we leave, I want to thank our 2026 digital sponsors. We appreciate what they do to help us bring you the GrowthPro Edge each and every week. If you have an idea for the GrowthPro Edge or you'd like to be a guest, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at denise@thegrowthprogroup.com. Well, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the GrowthPro Edge. And remember that the journey to success is all about growth. And we at the GrowthPro Group are committed to helping you and your company thrive. You can visit thegrowthprogroup.com to learn how we can support your growth journey for yourself, for your team, or your business by setting up a free growth call with one of our coaches. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for the extraordinary.